So let's try to untangle the whole timeline of BTC ETFs together, whether BlackRock got their ETFs approved or not, and all those kind of events, because there has been a lot of FUD that you should be careful with. And we are going to start way back, just the previous history of the Bitcoin ETFs. It's actually started in 2013. I have my laptop with a whole timeline here, and it's quite incredible how, like, it's been actually 10 years since we started the whole saga. But it wasn't until 2021 that the first Bitcoin ETF was approved. So we got to October 19th of 2021 when the Bitcoin Strategy ETF from ProShares was approved and started being traded on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, or CME. This big event happened, but it did not provoke much talks or action. Nevertheless, we got 21 shares and ARK Invest to file for the first spot Bitcoin ETF with the SEC. However, we will realize later that it was rejected. And we got another positive piece of news, and that was more concerning Asia when Hong Kong debuted their futures ETFs. And that's when everybody started looking a bit more into the Asian part of the world as a potential mover for the next bull market. And we're still probably looking at that, but that's around the time when it all started. So Hong Kong approved the futures ETF trading on December, and the ARK Invest around middle of the year, they filed for the ETF, for the spot ETF with SEC. However, the January of 2023 brought the first rejections from the SEC for their applications. So on January the 27th, SEC rejects spot Bitcoin ETF application by ARK and 21 shares. Despite this rejection, a few other funds filed an application with the SEC for the Bitcoin ETF. So this has been like the start of the momentum. However, we also got the SEC denial of the spot Bitcoin ETF application by VanEck. And we also have Bitwise that launched its BTC or BITC, a new type of Bitcoin-linked ETF designed for long-term investors. So the futures seemingly were much easier to obtain a permission for from the SEC than the spot Bitcoin ETFs. And we will see how this plays out later, because there has been a court case for the SEC and Grayscale, when Grayscale appealed the fact that SEC was prolonging the decision on spot Bitcoin ETFs while allowing these futures to happen. So yes, this whole thing happened in March, and we go straight into April afterwards, and we got 21 shares and ARK to try yet again. So that is the third time they're filing for the Bitcoin ETF, for the spot one, to get it approved by the SEC. However, it was April. We are in, November now, and it did not help much, right? Speaking of Grayscale, it started appearing in the news more and more, especially since May. So in May, on the 9th of May, it filed for the Ethereum futures ETF as well as a composite Bitcoin ETF. So that has been a very positive push because we got more bigger funds filing for the ETFs. However, like 9 days later, Grayscale stopped its futures ETF plans after a warning from the SEC, while Bitwise amended its SEC filing to hold any launch of Ether ETF products. So at the moment in May, we are still in May, we are not considering Ethereum, although now we are going to talk about it later, how the situation is now. But in May, Ethereum futures or Ethereum, any kind of ETFs, were on the very warning side from the SEC. So we go straight into June after that, because again, we just got an insight and it's probably got some people to speculate on it a little bit. And then we got the downfall, which is, well, people like to gamble. And I assume for many, it was quite an interesting event to gamble on. We go into June, and in the middle of June, we got on the 15th the Bitcoin ETF filing by BlackRock. So if BlackRock's ETF is approved, likely others are going to be approved as well, because it's not going to make sense if only one of them is approved. It's going to look very shady if they don't. So with the 575 to 1 approval to rejection rate from BlackRock, people assumed that, okay, all ETFs are going to be approved from now on. And likely that was kind of priced in already by now by multiple people. However, at that time, it was a very big surge in the price, and we had, of course, some ongoing activity going afterwards. And everybody was very positive about the event, and everybody was kind of convinced that it is going to be approved. However, it was not as quick as people have anticipated, I assume, because there are usually like 4 deadlines to my knowledge, or yeah, I think there are 4 deadlines that SEC has to either postpone the decision or until the final deadline. And then in the final deadline, they kind of have to say they accept it or reject it. And the final deadline is still in 2024. And people, of course, expected it to be almost immediately approved. But you never know how it is going to go. And it did not go into immediate approval as we kind of witnessed. The positive news pump continued to the 27th, so until the very end of June. And when we got the leverage Bitcoin ETF BitX to become effective, scheduled to launch on the 27th of June. So it was just ongoing and getting the momentum around that time. However, on the 27th as well of June, we got the WisdomTree ETF refused, but it didn't bring too much of a kind of bad press because just recently BlackRock filed and WisdomTree is not BlackRock. So people, I guess, did not put it into too much attention that just another ETF got refused. And then in the end of June, we got a few more, even more funds filing, such as Invesco Galaxy and again, as WisdomTree, again, refiling for the Bitcoin ETF. And also Fidelity submitting a fresh filing for BTC ETF. So, and throughout this whole timeline, more funds are filing, more funds are refiling. So they kind of amending, and seemingly they are in talks with the SEC. So they are amending their applications to get them approved, at least at some point, ideally. I mean, probably in 2024, to be honest, but nobody really knows. No financial advice, of course. So we got the whole queue of ETFs published. I'm going to put the picture on the screen, but there's like a lineup of more than 20 ETFs in the queue for SEC's approval. And SEC didn't even acknowledge all of them that it has received and is going to review them, but the funds just continued on and on because, of course, nobody wanted to be left out. However, so we got this queue, right? And then there was an article. Let me check the date of when the article got released in the very end of June. So that's the 30th of June when the SEC says to the Wall Street Journal that spot Bitcoin ETF filings are inadequate. Regulators tells NASDAQ, CBO, and that's the exchanges, that applications from BlackRock, Fidelity, and others aren't clear and comprehensive. But hear me out, it did not say it's going to refuse them. It just said that they were not particular enough and they were not outlined well enough. That's kind of fair because BlackRock didn't even mention the exchange it's going to partner for this Bitcoin ETF. And then in July, we got this fixed. So going into July, we still have a lot of positive news ongoing. There is CZ from Binance mentioning how practically Bitcoin ETFs are going to be approved at some point in the future as well. Everybody was just talking about it like it's a set in stone as well in the future, although how can it be? Doesn't really matter. And it was also the point when the famous meme of it's a matter of when, it's not a matter of if was born, when the Grayscale CEO, I think it's Grayscale CEO. And then we got the refiling from BlackRock, who actually does name Coinbase as a surveillance partner for its Bitcoin ETF launch. Then going on a bit further into July, the first Bitcoin ETF application filed under new Australian regulations, so it doesn't want to lag behind, obviously. However, the actions from the SEC, they're rather slow. So the US SEC accepts 6 spot Bitcoin ETFs proposal for review, while we saw that the queue was about more than 20 Bitcoin ETFs. And we go into August. The August is the start kind of the big talks about Ethereum ETFs and in particular Ethereum futures ETFs because, well, futures seemingly had a much easier time than spot ETFs. So we have about 6 funds that are in the race already for the running of the ETF futures. So there is Ether Strategy Fund from Volatility Shares and Bitwise, Roundhill, VanEck, ProShares, and Grayscale filed for one. Direction joins crypto ETF race by filing a combined Bitcoin and Ether futures fund. Then more companies filing for ETFs such as GlobalX, Direction, Hashdex, and others. So again, August continues the normal ongoing just on-ramping of people to file an application for a Bitcoin ETF or now also Ethereum ETF. Then SEC pushes the 21 shares Bitcoin ETF decision again, but that's normal. That's what we kind of saw with it happening. So we don't really need to go over the pushes too much because everybody saw the deadlines by now. Then in the middle of August, we have some positive news for Europe. So we already got Asia kind of going up the first, and then we got the first ETF, Bitcoin ETF, approved for the European exchange. So it was launched on an Amsterdam exchange. However, the ETF itself was registered outside of the EU. And you can count that Europe first Bitcoin ETF was launched on the 15th, at least that's when the news came out. And Europe is the second, and we see that US is a little bit lagging behind by now. In the end of August, we got some more positive news when Grayscale wins the court case against SEC, where the court agreed that the SEC was incorrect to prolong the Grayscale application for the spot Bitcoin ETF. Because previously, again, Grayscale, I already mentioned it before, but practically Grayscale just said, why did you approve some futures ETF and you're just prolonging our decision on the spot Bitcoin ETFs? How is that different and how is it okay? And the judge was like, yeah, fair point. So the SEC kind of lost in that court case, and it brought a lot of positive momentum to the market. People were very happy and they saw kind of the light in the end of the tunnel despite the longer than anticipated action in the ETF front. And then we go into September, and at the 1st of September, SEC delays making a decision on spot Bitcoin ETFs application until October, and that's kind of as anticipated, as we all know anyway. Then Cathie Wood's ARK Invest also files for the first Ether ETF, and this is the first spot Ether ETF. So we got finally the spot coming for the Ethereum as well. And we remember how in just like April or March we talked about, it was not even in talks, how the SEC warned Grayscale against anything futures for Ethereum related, and now it did not. And then on the 28th, we get the Valkyrie fund to get an approval to start buying ETH futures for its existing Bitcoin ETF. So that the approval is supposed to become effective on the 3rd of October. And again, just more action for Ethereum ETFs. And right now it's just going to be combined with Bitcoin ETFs. That's for the futures, though. That's not the spot ones. Then on the 29th, we got Invesco Galaxy apply for a spot ETH ETF, but that's expected. We already saw ARK to file for one, so we can kind of anticipate more funds to file for it after some big fund files. So that is quite normal. And then on around the same dates, the SEC moves to again delay the spot Bitcoin ETF decision for BlackRock, Valkyrie, Bitwise, and practically everybody else, because we see the results now. So we go into October, and in October, Grayscale has filed to convert its private trust, with 5 billion private trust to be precise, into an ETF. And then also VanEck launches its eFut, Ethereum Futures ETF. So Ethereum started gaining more and more momentum. We got Bitcoin pumped a bit. Now you see how the news kind of got more and more full with Ethereum, which is an interesting change of narrative going on. You can literally just see how much Ethereum is mentioned more. And then we go to the final, most important date of this whole saga, the 16th of October, when BlackRock Bitcoin ETF was approved by the SEC. Until it wasn't. I mean, Cointelegraph announced this big fake news, the breaking news, how this thing happened. And this immediately led to a surge in price for Bitcoin. So 11% it got like up in an hour or so. And it led to a liquidation of more than $100 million from the market, among which 70 million were the liquidations of short positions, which is kind of like insane if you just imagine the time frame it happened in. Because like literally an hour later, Eleanor Terrett says that BlackRock has just confirmed to me that this is false. Their application is still under review. So Cointelegraph removed their post, but you cannot remove anything from the internet because so many people are going to take the screenshot of this thing. And of course, many people also follow Cointelegraph, and multiple Telegram channels just take those articles and push it out. So the moment it was published, it got spread onto Telegram, it got spread onto WeChat and everywhere. So you cannot undo what you did. Many people think that could not be some kind of silly mistake, although it could be. You never know what really happened. But some people speculate that it earned about $2 million on these speculations. But, well, who am I to judge? we go straight into some more news happening in October. And then there was kind of a funny event going on because like the iShares Bitcoin Trust has been listed on the DTCC, that is the Depository Trust Clearing Corporation, which clears NASDAQ Q trades with the ticker IBTC. And that was like a process of bringing the ETF to the market. Okay, I'm sorry for the notification coming. So it was like big news. Everybody was very happy. It was like a tweet announcing it. There were like 1K likes on it. And then like an hour later, the ticker Bitcoin ETF from BlackRock disappeared from the DTCC. And then somebody said that it reappeared again because you just went to the website, you could check it, and it was still there. And then the DTCC spokesperson says that the BlackRock ETF has actually been on their website since August, which is kind of hilarious because if you look at the graph, people were really following this news and they were like speculating on this thing, but it actually meant nothing. Then we just continue the typical refiling for the ETFs, the Bitwise announcing another second renewed application for the BTC ETF. Also VanEck and a few other funds. Then November comes. November, we're finally in this very month. And on the 1st of November, Invesco Galaxy's spot Bitcoin ETF joins BlackRock on the DTCC website. However, we already kind of figured out that's not too big of a deal. It might lead to some market action, but it's actually just part of the process. Then on the 8th of November, we got the SEC saying that it is opened. It has opened talks with Grayscale on spot BTC ETF push. Then on the 14th, there has been an event that you should be careful with such kind of events happening and continue to happen even more now. Allegedly, BlackRock filed for an ETF for XRP. However, this was very fake news. This was very false. And you can... Still, despite the news being very fake, you can see on the website of like, we go into CoinMarketCap and you look into XRP. It's like a circus going on with XRP. And then literally just on the 15th, I think on Friday, BlackRock filed for the spot Ethereum ETF with the SEC. And I think like literally yesterday, we got Fidelity also to file for an Ethereum ETF, for the spot Ethereum ETF. And again, we kind of have this domino effect. It's not really the reverse domino effect, I would say, because we first had ARK Invest to file for it. Then we got BlackRock and we got Fidelity now as well. But, well, we'll see how it on goes because the BTC ETF has been in the works for a long time. The final deadline, let's go and have a look at the final deadlines for now. So ARK Invest 21 shares is a final deadline of 10th of January 2024. iShares Bitcoin Trust from BlackRock is the 15th of March. Then Bitwise, VanEck, WisdomTree, Invesco Galaxy, Fidelity, Valkyrie, and GlobalX are all around middle to end of March. And actually GlobalX is the last one in the middle of April. But again, we don't know the exact dates. Those are just the final deadlines when the SEC will be asked to make their final decision. The overall impact of Bitcoin ETFs on the market can be both positive and negative. The positive side is, of course, that everybody is expecting that extra liquidity is going to be brought to the market by the new institutional and just normal traditional finance investors because it lowers the barrier to entry. It reduces kind of any frictions with people using cryptocurrency exchanges. They can just use TradFi. And then it also improves market access for people. So that's just the overall overarching theme of this whole thing ongoing. And people expect the positive price action, just like it was for gold ETF. However, if we actually look at the gold ETF launching, we see that it just did not go straight up from the very initial point. It took several months for it to be stable or even go a bit lower. So it didn't surge up just like everybody expects the Bitcoin to go. But we cannot directly compare it one-to-one. But I'm just saying is that you cannot predict how something is going to go just by your intuition or just by the history of something else that was similar. There have been also kind of negative news of the ETF, which is kind of understandable because ETFs are the traditional finance trying to bridge their tentacles into the crypto finance and DeFi. So there are increased market So there are increased market manipulation risks because we have more money and more institutional investors But many people, as I mentioned like 3 times already, would like that to happen because that creates some activity for them. So this increased volatility may be better. However, the increased volatility and the involvement of more traditional finance people may bring more regulatory scrutiny onto Bitcoin and cryptocurrency in general, because more people are going to be involved, and that will kind of give the SEC and other regulators more power to say that, okay, so many people are involved, we gotta get involved as well. And you don't know how well the regulations can go, because on the one hand, they can do good and they can also do bad. You, again, have to see it when it happens. You cannot really price it in right now. And then there is a whole big point of the divergence of Bitcoin from its actual initial intrinsic idea, from its ethos of decentralized cash. So everybody wanted to have money that is not controlled by the state, that does not have banks involved, that people can just use peer-to-peer as currency. And now it is becoming into something completely different, and it is not having its intrinsic value as the energy people put in. It has its value with added on speculations from the market makers. And now also, if the ETF is going to be approved, it's going to get even more kind of speculation and volatility that is not included in the intrinsic value of the currency. And then we also have to remember the concept of priced in expectations. So because we see this whole kind of trends and narratives in the news changing, it might be also correlating with how the funds are accumulating the currencies, because we don't know what they know and they know that we don't know what they know. So they kind of have the asymmetry of information in their favor, so they can make some decisions that we are not aware of. And yeah, it's probably not the very best way to end this video, but it has been kind of interesting to watch this thing happening, because it's something completely new to me. I am not a trader much myself, and it's just getting me into the news with this video a little, and I hope it cleared things up for you a little bit as well. Anyways, thank you very much for watching and staying with me until the very end. I'm pretty sure it was a long video. Please subscribe to the channel if you like this video. Even if you don't intend to watch all my videos, it still helps the channel to grow, and I appreciate it a lot. And thank you very much for watching, and see you in the next one.